Okay, up next, I want to talk about form. Now, form or musical form is probably the most underrated aspect, in my opinion, of music theory and music composition. So, in this first video, let's talk about what form is, and then I'll give you some things to help you work with it. Okay, so first of all, I found this little video, which we don't need to watch it. It's just someone reading this paragraph, so I'm just going to read it to you. So here is the somewhat technical definition of musical form. After this, I'll distill this for you, don't worry. The term musical form or musical architecture refers to the overall structure or plan of a piece of music, and it describes the layout of a composition as divided into sections. In the 10th edition of the Oxford Companion to Music, Percy Scholes defines musical form as a series of strategies designed to find a successful mean between the opposite extremes of unrelieved repetition and unrelieved alteration. According to Richard Middleton, musical form is the shape or the structure of the work. He describes it through the difference. The distance moved from a repeat, the latter being the smallest difference. Difference is quantitative and qualitative. How far and of what type? Different. In many cases, form depends on statement and restatement, unity and variety, and contrast and connection. Okay. That was a lot of technical stuff. Let's slice that down to what that actually means. The best thing about this whole paragraph is this term right here, musical architecture. It's the shape of the piece. Okay, so yes, these are all true and they're all interesting to know, the other three paragraphs here. But what it really boils down to is the shape and the contrast. That's kind of what these other two paragraphs were saying here. The contrast is what makes music interesting. Think about a pop song. In a pop song, we have the verse and we have the chorus, right? And we have some other stuff here and there too, but primarily we have verses and choruses. They tend to contrast each other a little bit. By contrast, I mean if the chorus is big and loud, the verse might be quieter, right? Or less thick. It might be, if it's a pop song where like people are yelling in the chorus, they might not in the verse, or even the opposite of that. So the verse and chorus are two main pieces of the song, and the form is how those are arranged over time. So the form of a pop song might be intro, verse, chorus, maybe another verse, chorus, and then a bridge, and then a chorus. That could be a typical pop song. There's a lot of different ways you can do pop songs, but those are typically the pieces. It's kind of like a puzzle. Here's another way to look at it. Here's a piece of music. What this is doesn't matter. This is just a big piece of music. This is an orchestra piece. Here's what I want to show you, though. So we can look through this and we can just see a ton of notes, right? Like, a lot of notes. But if we zoom out, if we just zoom way out, we can actually see the form pretty clearly. Okay, so let's do it. Let's zoom way out. So even here, we're looking at 1, 2, 3, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 pages. We still just see a bunch of notes. We don't see the form yet, but we go way out. Oops, let's go this way. I want to see the whole piece in one line. I don't know how well this is going to translate to your screen. Hopefully. Clearly, we don't want to see the notes here. I don't care about the notes. Okay, here's the entire piece. Okay, this is the whole piece of music. Obviously, I can't read the notes, but I can see the form. Check this out. Here's a lot of notes. That's the lot of notes we were looking at before. Here it gets thinner, right? Not as many notes. Less dark stuff on the page, less ink on the page. Here it gets thicker again. This is probably related to this, right? Like I can almost see similar stuff happening there. And then quiet again. This might be related to this, probably. By the shape of it, it kind of looks like it is. But it's longer, so that's interesting. Then we have thick stuff again here, probably related to this stuff and this stuff. And then we have something new here. I can't really tell what it is. It's somewhere in between this and this in terms of the density of it, like how many notes are happening. So what I can tell here is that there are probably 3 different sections of this piece, 2 of which are repeated. So let's call this section the A section. We usually call form with letters. So this is the A section. This is a B section. All that means is that it's something different than A. This we could call the A section again, and we'd need to listen to it and look at it a little more finely than we're looking at it here to really know if this is a repeat of the A section or not. But let's call it the A section again. Here, we could call this the B section because it looks like the same thing again. So we have A, B, A, B, and this is longer, so we might call this an altered B. Something's different about it. It's based on the B section, but it's different. So we can call it an altered B, or a fancy way to say that would be B prime, is the way to say it's an altered B. Here it looks like we have an A section again, similar to these. So we have A, B prime, A, and then maybe something that looks totally different. If it's totally different than A and B, we would call it C. We would call it a C section. If we got in there and analyzed it and really looked close at it, we might even call it an altered A, where in the same way this was an altered B, this might be an A plus some stuff. So this could be an altered B, or an altered A, I'm sorry. But it kind of looks to me like it's something new here, so we could call that C. So that means the form of this piece, as far as we can tell right now, is A, B prime, A, C. So what good does that do us, knowing the form and being able to see the form? As composers, it does us a lot of good, because when you're writing something, first of all, audiences like to hear a clear form. They like this. So here we have an A section, here we have the A section again. That's good. That's not laziness. That's good. What that means is they hear something here, they hear something different, and then here they go, ah, yes, I've heard that before. That is a feeling we like our audiences to have. Familiarity, something they know. They've heard this before. They can latch onto it. That gives a positive response from your audience members most of the time. So that's why form is important. Repeating things is okay. So from the audience perspective, it's good. We want them to get music that they've heard before or an alteration of it because it gives familiarity to the music and makes them more comfortable. So that's why form matters. And for another reason, we like form because it kind of makes our life a little bit easier, right? Like we write this A section and then we write the B section and then we write the C section, right? That's like the only things we've really had to write here. And we've got a whole long piece by doing the A, B, let's do the A again, let's do the B again, let's do something new, right? Like you had to write half as much music as the actual length of the piece. So that can be handy. That's not like the best reason to do it, obviously, because we don't use form just because we're lazy. But it is a nice byproduct that you can write a little bit more music a little bit faster. So form matters, and there's a lot of different forms that exist already. There are some that are like kind of like templates. So this one we would call A, B prime, sorry, A, B prime, A, C. Some of those patterns have names, and we kind of keep them metaphorically in our back pocket. We pull them out and we say, oh, I'm going to use that one now. I'm going to use this one now. And we put that into the plan when we're sitting down to write a piece. We say, okay, I'm going to use this form. I'm going to use this key, this, kind of stuff. That's part of what we plan on doing. So let's talk next about some of those forms that are like these standard forms that people use all the time. There are a couple that I find to be really useful just to keep handy and think about using in your pieces. So let's talk about those next.